Pecha Kucha 63, Hands, Snakes and Professors. So this is another example of a week where if I didn't have the Pecha Kucha, I would have done even less than what I did do. So probably about a good half of what I'm showing just wouldn't exist if I didn't have to slot it in to this system. So like I said last week, I need to do a lot of reference drawing. I googled, hands, because hands is something I should really have down. And people create these kind of hand posture mood boards, both so they know how to draw them and so they can go back to them when they need to draw them again. So, I copied some of those by eye, kind of resented it a bit, so started copying my own hand. Every once in a while, I'd do a couple from memory, and they'd still be bad, so I wasn't really getting very far. But then I just haven't done it enough. It's a combination of muscle memory, actual knowledge, and good old-fashioned practice. So after drawing a few hands, I kind of had to draw something a bit more interesting. I ended up drawing Onikage, a weird-looking one of him, but the idea was all black ink and then come in with the white afterwards. I think I might have discovered a new way that could be an interesting way to build images. With this page, I just straight traced on top using the chalk brush. Chalk brush. It's actually a good way for me to practice putting the lines where they're supposed to go, because my hand-eye coordination's a little bit off with the tablet when it comes to clean, smooth lines. So yeah, drawing hands without context, like I said, is boring, so I thought I'd draw some hands with context. I cheated here and used the symmetry ruler, so I only drew the hand on the right of the shredder who's moving to strangle one of the turtles, because that's the kind of thing I would do in a picture that's got hands in the forefront. I also did a little, face shot of Solid Snake, because I wanted to see what would happen if I applied the lasso inking to that. Because I think if I can get kind of accurate with line weight, it will be a pretty strong method for me to ink going forward. So I just applied some solid black shapes all over the place. The hair's an interesting look. I've got these wavy things on his bandana that don't really do anything, but at least they look kind of dynamic, right? The curves, the curve of his collar is kind of reinforced by those wiggly shapes. Then I had this idea of coloring it with a kind of a muted, saturated color tone, kind of like Yoji Shinkawa's pictures. But I ended up sort of smoothing it out with the blend tool. But definitely using like colors that are off color is pretty cool. And then I came in with the lasso tool again and started kind of doing shadow work. And then I super darkened his hair. That was probably the motivator, and the dark blue of his uniform. So you can see a little bit of the pastel chalk brush thing I was using to color on the top of his bandana. And then I came in with the textures. Yay! So I want to create a snow effect, and I also kind of reddened up his nose and ears to make it look like he's outside in the cold. And then I added breath with the spray paint tool. And it was easy, but it adds a lot to the picture. Again, going back to hands, why do I want to draw hands? So I can use specific hand postures. The ocelot gun hands posture is top of the list. So I ended up drawing Liquid Ocelot. He's a fun guy. I need to work him into the Smiley show pretty quick, which means I need to do some Smiley shows pretty quick. So I showed this thumbnail picture of the Professor Xavier from the X-Men I did last week. And I did about 20 kind of random things in that file. And I just thought, you know what, these are good things to come back to and actually turn them into things. And that is actually what I did. So I kind of came back in with the chalk brush and decided to put some decided lines down, because confident lines carry a lot more visual appeal than kind of thin, sketchy, feathery lines. Even if they're in the wrong place, I find, because mine usually are. So then I applied the lasso inking technique to this, and I feel like his turtleneck is quite nice, and his blazer isn't too bad either. And the unevenness of the lines to me, adds a quality to it that doesn't seem like it's so bad. I added some flat colours, and the kind of the greyish tint I added to his eyes I think works quite well, along with the kind of inked lighting effect, which makes it look a bit more like, say, a Marvel picture than it would look otherwise, because I certainly don't pencil things or ink them the Marvel way. Then I added the background. I had this idea of some kind of green pinstripe thing going on in the wallpaper of his study. And then I put some kind of pictures in the background that tell a little story, a certificate, because he's a professional teacher, him graduating, and some kind of castle somewhere. Let's say it's Muir Island, and then I added I added shade to his facial features. It's mostly for flavor. It's not entirely in the right places. It's under the cheekbones makes sense to emphasize the chin makes sense, but a lot of it's kind of just, what am I doing? I'm just doing it to see what would happen, really. And then the great thing about digital art is you can just put filters on top. I did a gradient fill and then changed the opacity mode to multiply or overlay, and so you can see what's underneath. So it kind of changes the lighting, makes it warmer, like there's a fireplace in his office, something like that. So I think a lot of professionals mess around with that stuff when they're finished with their artwork to kind of, it's like in a video game where when you go inside or outside, you can tell that it's changing filters because everything gets suddenly brighter or suddenly darker. So what do we do going forward? Well, I think I should just really get on with the Smiley Show. I need to do a lot of practice with all kinds of reference things, but I think the best thing I can do is actually get some stuff out, and my skill level is sufficient to do the Smiley Show, because really the jokes are funny and that's all that matters. And then, the secondary kind of focus is, do the daily sketches, build up this visual library and the experience drawing certain things, the muscle memory. Do the daily sketches and just kind of get some real YouTube content. Because the Pecha Kuchas are great for me, but I don't see them ever getting many views. It's really something I can just point friends to if they want to know what I've been up to in the last week. So that brings us to the end of Pecha Kucha 63, and I will see you next time.